right, and welcome back to the forecast card. Another shitty day. Woo! I love this sport, man. I've never had this bad of a run in this sport in so long. I'm starting to just second guess everything I look at. Today's every single pick is going to be purely model. I am not looking at any power ratings, any situational spots. Nope. Everything you're seeing here is strictly statistics and algorithms deciding what they think the spread should be. I'm not trying to overplay stuff. Understand why lines are what they are. Um, yeah, I if this has a terrible day again, then I don't know what to tell you. This has been a model that I've been developing for a while that has done me extremely well. Since college basketball started, I'm up over like somewhere over 200 units since 2023. But the last month has just been atrocious. Even though my record is still in the net green, it doesn't feel like it should be because I'm just watching my bankroll plummet. Luckily, NBA and NFL have been saving me a little bit, but today I went 1-1 in NBA, so that ended up attributing to the L that was today. Anyway, let's go through the games. Vanderbilt, just a fucking bullshit game. I still can't believe they covered. If you look at the actual underlying stats of that game, they lose the game by 12, so they barely don't cover. They shoot 3 of 17 from 3. That's the one spot where I was expecting them to hopefully put up some points. They couldn't drill them. They out-rebounded Auburn by 8. They had only 4 more turnovers than Auburn did. They had four additional field goal attempts than Auburn. They scored 2 extra free throws than Auburn did. Yet somehow they still lost this game by 12. Everything went to shit. They were leading with maybe like 12 minutes left, and they just could not drill a singular three-pointer. It is what it is. This is, in my opinion, the epitome of a right side wrong result. If they just hit one more three to even bring their 3-point percentage to 20%, we cover this game. They lose by 9, so just rough. Florida, it was a pretty slow start, but back and forth. But Florida pulled away in the second. That was pretty non-sweat free. Purdue, this one should have lost. They were dominating, kind of collapsed. And then we got very lucky that Wolf missed his 2 free throws at the end of the game because Purdue ended up missing their 3. So they would have lost by 4. Then we lose by 2. Very fortunate. Arizona, they were kind of up and down, dominating at some points. Then they absolutely imploded, giving up a pretty ridiculous 8-0 run in the last 2 minutes. And then they obviously just didn't have enough time to come back. They ended up losing that game by 3. Creighton, probably the worst beat. They were dominating up like 13 early, and then they just give up like a 20-4 run at the end of the first half, at the beginning of the second, to end up being down by 8, which is pretty crazy. And they come all the way back just to miss a tying 3 at the end. They end up losing that game by 4. Classic. Michigan State ended up, at some point leading by 14 early game. They looked like they were dominating both sides, super comfortable. Yeah, they end up losing that game by 4. They shot 4 of 23 from 3. They out-rebounded. They had only slightly more turnovers, but, Indiana just shot better. That's all it was. Again, another luck game lost because the better team could not hit a single fucking 3. So that was a bullshit game. Another one, Oregon, they're currently leading by 14 at half. So we will see how that game goes. I'm probably not going to win that one because any team winning at half always collapses for me. Santa Clara, they've been kind of back and forth this game. They're currently technically covering, but this line had moved to plus 11, expecting that to lose. So best case scenario today is 4-4. Worst case is 2-6. So again, I don't know what you're doing if you're taking my bets right now. You could be making a shit ton of money just fading them because if I take a home team, they lose. I take a road team, they lose. No matter what happens, the team I'm betting on always looks good for a little bit and then implodes. It almost never happens the other way around. My 2 wins today were Florida, which was constantly winning, so it didn't even manage to do like a comeback or anything. I'm exhausted, dude. I spend like 3-4 hours looking at all these games, trying to find a perfect angle, and then it just always backfires because teams can't hit their fucking 3s. Anyway, rant is over. Hopefully we end today 4-4, but it'll probably be 2-6 because why the fuck not? Let's go into the games that the model likes today. All right, game number 1. We have Oklahoma State on the road versus TCU. Model has TCU winning this game by 7.9. We're getting a good line at 5.5. On paper, the only thing Oklahoma State has going for them is the momentum factor, but TCU has played much harder competition. They've been a better team all year, and on paper, they're pretty good at defending, especially where this Oklahoma State likes to score. On the other side, TCU, they're going to find a lot of success on their home court where they've been playing much better basketball. They're going to find a lot of opportunities from free throws, offensive boards, points off turnovers, kind of everything kind of leans their way. So in theory, this should be a very one-sided game because Oklahoma State really has not played very well on the road, and TCU has played better at home. But who the fuck knows? TCU minus 5.5, my first bet. Game number 2, we have Tulsa on the road versus Temple. Model just thinks that Temple is a significantly better team than Tulsa is. They're going to find a lot of success basically anywhere they play the game, especially on the offensive glass and from 3, two of the things that they do really well. On the other side, Tulsa, a team that relies pretty heavily on second chance opportunities, is going to struggle against this big Temple team, and where they typically like to shoot threes in your basket. This Temple is a pretty solid team. So all around, Temple's just played harder teams, is the better team, and we're getting them at home, where they're going to play a much faster pace here to outscore this Tulsa team. Model has them winning by 12. Game number 3, we have VCU head on the road to play George Washington. This game obviously has VCU as the better team, but they do expect that George Washington to only lose this game by 7. So I do like them as the home dog spot at plus 9.5. Yeah, VCU has been playing really well, but George Washington does play really well at home. They're a very consistent team. Meanwhile, this VCU team is a little bit more inconsistent, and I think they might struggle to score. The game pretty much comes down to whether or not George Washington is going to fumble the ball a lot. VCU kind of relies on turnovers, and they do get quite a fewer turnovers when they're on the road. So, Model does like George Washington here to keep this game relatively close at home. All right, game number 4. This game is basically a pick'em between Presbyterian and Charleston Southern. Model has these two teams as pretty much equal. Has Presbyterian as the slightly better offensive team and the slightly worse defensive team. But Charleston Southern has played a significantly harder schedule, and they're a little bit more consistent. Expects them to get to the free throw line a lot, and that ends up being the difference in this tightly contested game. Presbyterian also relies heavily on getting offensive boards. Charleston Southern is a top 75 team against much harder competition at defending their own boards. So, getting the home team here as we have the Model has them winning by 4.5. So money line seems like great value. All right, game number 5. We have Notre Dame head on the road to play Boston College. Model has Notre Dame as just a significantly better team that plays better on the road versus a Boston College team that does not play well at home. Model has this game by 7.5. We're getting at 4.5, which seems like a solid amount. Boston College has been a borderline top 200 team this year. Notre Dame has been a borderline top 75 team, significantly better team. We're getting them in a spot here where they should have a lot of success, where they typically like to score, which is basically everywhere, and offensive boards. Boston College should struggle here to score pretty much everywhere, especially from 3. So give me Notre Dame to go on the road here and crush Boston College by more than 4.5. All right, and in terms of the other 5 games that the Model likes today, it likes Ole Miss here to go on the road and beat South Carolina. Model thinks that South Carolina has been playing way too well. Now we're getting the much better team here on the road. We're getting the better team at home. South Carolina has been playing well at home, but Ole Miss does also play extremely well on the road. They're a way better offensive team and significantly better defensive team. They should be able to completely nullify this South Carolina's offense. I think they win this game by more than 5. Game number 2, we have FSU versus Wake Forest. Model has Wake Forest due for a shit ton of regression. They expect Florida State to struggle, but to keep this game close, get to the line quite a lot, get some points off steals. Meanwhile, Wake Forest, they expect them to also get to the line quite a lot, but they don't play very well at home, and the Florida State team is kind of due to start playing better ball again. So, Model thinks they'll keep this game within 7, and they have Wake Forest winning this game by 4.5. Game number 3, we have Stanford heading on the road to play Georgia Tech. Model expects that Stanford is going to be the better team in general. They're a bit more consistent, and as of lately, they've been a solid team. They've already went on the road in a few ACC conference games and taken the W outright. The Georgia Tech team, despite being due for a little bit of regression, is a pretty mid team. They're not top 100 in anything. Meanwhile, this is a Stanford team that shoots the free throws really well and will find a lot of success here in general. So I don't think Stanford is going to win this game outright by 1. We're getting them as plus 2.5 point dogs. I like the spot for Stanford. Heading on to game at number 4, we have Illinois State at home versus Drake. Model has Illinois State being a about average team, but the Drake team due for a lot of regression, especially on the road. They are 22-2. They're not, on paper they really shouldn't be that good. I think Illinois State here is a slightly better offensive team. Will find success in the mid and near basket where they do play really well. They played a harder competition than Drake, and we're getting them on their home court. And yeah, I think Illinois State here will lose this game by 1. Very last game, we have LSU heading on the road to play Arkansas. Model expects a lot of negative regression for this Arkansas team. Meanwhile, LSU should have a solid advantage on the offensive glass and does defend much better in a lot of spots where Arkansas typically has found a lot of success. Model thinks LSU will lose this game by 6. We're getting them at plus 9. I think this is a good spot for them. All right, and that is everything that I'm going to be betting in college basketball tomorrow. I've been getting absolutely shit on. I fully understand if you're fading me right now, but historically this has been my best sport profit-wise. And I'm hoping that this is just a bit of a slump in February where I typically do struggle because teams are kind of playing a bit differently. Some are fighting really hard to make the tournament. Some are kind of on coast. And sometimes that's where numbers don't actually mean anything. And kind of looking at the eye test and whatnot as better approach to kind of look at how these games. For example, I took Creighton. This is a UConn team that just got dropped out of the top 25. Maybe it's better to have looked at the fact that they, this coach who's brought them to back-to-back championships may be due to have a big game. But again, I think Creighton was the right side at a short line. They were winning most of that game, just imploded, which you could argue is a product of good coaching with some solid core team that's still been around for the last 2 championships. So they've got good mental. Anyway, I'm going to start approaching this a little bit differently. I always recommend take these model projections and kind of do your own research on each game if you are tailing, which I would highly not recommend currently. But anyway, if I sound exhausted, it's because I am. This has been a brutal week of bad games. And it's one thing if I feel like I'm just modeling every game poorly and I'm just like losing them right away, but every game has come down to the wire, or I've had teams completely implode. Teams fall behind early and never come back. Seems like no matter what side I'm on, I'm not getting the right side of the comeback or the wrong side of the implosion. So anyways, hopefully shit evens out over the next few days. If you have been tailing everything the last week, I apologize. Usually not this bad, but yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.